So let's talk about groups and repeating groups and differences in them. So I've got a few different elements on here. What I have here is an input and a save button. This is just going to help me create some data I'm going to use later. It's going to create just some basically titles on an object to use. So I'm going to reference that later in the repeating group. But here I have just a text box with text in it. And this, I just have an image uploaded. So say I want these two to stay together. Select both of them. I can right click. I can do group elements in a group. It gives me the ability to easily move them across wherever I want. They're going to stay together. They're going to be grouped. You'll also see here on the Elements tab, they are now in group A. I can rename this group. Whatever I want. It's good. So groups are useful, A, for organizing your app. They're useful for structure of your app. So when we're looking at how this app is going to look on different platforms, it's how it's going to look when I am using this app on a different device. These are going to have, they're going to stay together because they're in a group. There's less likelihood of this potato shooting across the screen compared to the image. I don't want the image over here and the potato over here. I want them next to each other. So I put them in a group. So then Bubble says these two are supposed to be together. And Bubble knows that. Groups can have a lot of different attributes. So if we take a look at a group, we can use them for styling. So they can have a group that has a warning style. We can have tips. There's some pre-canned ones, a group with borders. I like the group with a border on it. A lot of times when I'm building, just so I can see that these are the different groups I built and I can see where the borders are. It helps me to stay a little bit organized. It helps me remember what is already in groups. But you can edit all of those styles. And you can have groups change their styles based on different parameters. So say something happens inside of the app, you could have the background color maybe of a group change. So maybe the background color of a group changes to red because the group needs now because something happened in the app. Maybe something bad happens in association to something in the app, and this is now an alert for the user. So now the background of a certain group now will change to red, and that alerts the user that they should be looking over at this part of the screen now because this section of data needs to be looked at. So it would look something like that. And that could be a result of change of data inside your app or a result of another user clicking on something like, hey, alert the administrators of this. That would make this box change to red until the administrator came back and pushed another button that would flip another switch inside the system, basically saying, okay, this doesn't need to be that color anymore. And I've taken care of the problem. But you can do a lot of different things with groups in terms of styling your page and different coloring and housing data and showing data. So you can dictate what kind of content is going to be in it. So if you wanted to, you could say each group is going to be a specific type of content. So these are just different types of content in it. Right now, I can say this group is going to be user content, and I could have a list of users that are in a certain account or associated with the account. So if say I have a account hierarchy in my system, I could create groups inside of a repeating group and basically pull a list of users, or I could pull a list of, in this, I have things that we will change. So different things we can do with these. Now, groups are great. I like repeating groups a lot more. I use them together a lot. And it's really difficult to try to use Bubble without using some form of groups. Groups are really where you get a lot of the functionality out of Bubble. So repeating groups are going to be where you're basically going to query Bubble's database. So you're gonna really be putting data in and pulling data out. So I have things that we will change. That's the type of content we're going to look at in this example. So for that, I need a data source. We'll do a quick search here. We'll do a search for things that we will change. Perfect. I can dictate the number of rows. So I can change the thickness here. We'll just leave it 10 there, but it doesn't have anything to display here right now because I haven't given it anything to. See how the line turns red? I just clicked on text. I'm going to drop this text right here. Now I need to tell that text what it needs to say. Oops, let's get you back on that line. Smaller so you fit better. There we go. We'll do dynamic data. The current thing that will change, title. Great. So now I do this. I'm going to get a list of all the things that we can change inside of here. And maybe I do there. I can add more to that list. So now we can pull lists. Okay. Some more things we can do. Groups. Groups give us the ability to hide things. So I can hide a repeating group. I can hide a regular group. I might put a repeating group inside of a regular group to hide it. This is useful for a few different reasons. Say I have this, right? This is a group of things. Make a button here, right? So things, right? So no matter what things I'm making here, whatever my app is doing, whatever data my users are entering, I want to say, all right, show all the things in relation. I maybe don't want this whole box to be showing all the time. There's a lot of parts of our app maybe we want to hide most of the time because they don't need to see all of that data. So maybe I want to put this repeating group in another group. And I would do that for a couple of reasons. One, I'm going to put some text above it just so it looks nicer. And it's going to say all things that we can change. All right. And I don't know why this showed up as such a tiny little box, probably because of how I clicked it, but there we go. Now we have all things that we can change. We'll put it there. And then I'm just going to hold select this, and I'm going to group these in a group. Great. Now, this is not going to be called group B. This is going to be called group show all things. Now, on page load, everything basically defaults to visible. I don't want this to be visible, and I want it to collapse the element's height. Now, important to remember when I'm doing that, because when I go to the next page and I reload it, this is going to disappear. I want to remember what things I do this to and what things I don't, and what makes them show up. So I'm not surprised later and I don't wonder where things are. Because when I come back to this page and would edit it, I have to make them show back up. So this is visual programming. So inside of that, you can see how I'm using a group now to combine a repeating group, which is going to basically be useful for pulling lists and organizing lists. And it's going to be contained in a group with another thing to hide it. And we'll see how that's going to work here. So this button does something, huh? This button, we need to make it so it does the toggle. Toggle does a show hide feature for group things. Basically, toggle will, if something is hidden, it will show it. If something is shown, it will hide it. I want to give this group of borders because I think it looks nicer. The style and make it go back to let's make the background white. Yeah, it looks a lot better. Perfect. There we go. Let's refresh this. And remember, this box is going to go away. We're going to get a button instead. There we go. See? Boom. There we go. Some fun stuff you can do with that too. If I click on this, We can animate the collapse. So shows up by dropping down. Looks a little bit nicer. And here, we'll move this over. We'll show what it looks like to have this below it. We'll see. It moves the things below it down. So your app doesn't have to look as long, big, and complex as it could be. You can have a very simple looking page that could actually have a lot going on inside it. That's all hidden because you're able to do a lot of stuff like this. And a lot of things don't have to be accessed at one time. So that's really helpful. Some other things you can do. I'm going to make this group bigger. So I can make the European group bigger. Drag you over to the side here. We'll just keep adding more of this. I'm going to reduce this to 3. See how this got bigger? This space will grow. Now, inside of here, I can do additional things. So I could do a group inside of here. Type of content. That could be things that we will change. Data source could be this current cells, things that we will change. And then I could have whatever type of data I wanted to have in there too. So say from this page, I wanted to be able to put in the information to edit that, right? So I wanted to be able to then edit this. So let's put a little edit button here. Make it a tiny button. We can leave it saying edit me for once. We'll have it. Let's rename this group so we can find it. Group. Group edit group. Sounds right to me. This. Group edit group. And we don't want this one to show up right away. We want this not visible on page. We would collapse the element's height when hidden. We want to do that because we want it to shrink. We want this to show up as a small list when we first show it. You'll see what, I'll show you the difference here. So let's reload this page. So here's the difference between doing the two. Show all things, they show up like this. Toggle it, don't toggle it, you have this giant space, right? Now, if I collapse the height when hidden, I like the animation with it, why not? See how they come nice like this? It looks good. It feels like a better version of the app when we're able to have this little function like that. We can open multiple if we still want to, but it looks a lot better than having them all just default to having this big gap below them, even if that box isn't there. Now we're going to put something in the box. Because this box says whatever's in this box is related to this thing that's inside this cell, this area. Okay, so everything's in relation still. So we can have an input box, we can have a save button. We can leave it a giant button, that's fine. Change title. And we'll just have it so we can save data things, make changes to a thing. Parent groups thing will change. The title will change to A's value. Perfect. Input A. No, we need the title change, right? Input change title, not input A. Input change title. Oof, almost did it wrong. There we go. Now, info context here needs to be, I'm just going to change the title. Okay, and then title, let's make this look a little better here. Go. One last thing I want to do is I want to have this toggle it. So I want this to do a toggle because I want when this goes away, I want this to toggle group edit group. We're done editing it. I want it to disappear. This is all just kind of stuff you can do inside of groups. So show this, you can edit this. So blue to blues and just instantly changed back to blue. There we go. Pretty simple stuff. You can do with groups in kind of that respect. And these kind of things are pretty useful because as you go, you can add more types of fields. So inside of here, like when I created this, I could have this be not just saving and change. I could have this be adding images. I could be adding this, add more data. So I could have one user that goes in and they add different colors. And the next person goes in and they add different attributes of those colors. And then another person goes in and they add different types of things for those colors or whatever it is that my app does. So maybe it's an app for CRM and somebody puts in sales orders and then those sales orders go to a manufacturing team who has to actually put together the product that your company sells, and they have to put this these chairs that you're going to sell together. So the next person puts a list together of all of the parts that are going to go into this order that have to then be built. So then they have access to that portion. So they enter all of those, and the next person gets to add all of these parts. And you can delineate inside of these who can see what and how. So very powerful stuff. Very simple to do inside a bubble. Great. So that's just some stuff you can do with groups. Hope this is helpful for getting people introduced to some ideas of what you can do in Boots or in groups.